Thor is part of a new collection we're going to have. As you know, with lots of the special editions we have at Highland Park, we like to tell stories. We don't just like to give you one whisky and say, congratulations, there you go. We like to explain a bit about the history of the island, a little bit about the history of the people who were there, or just tell you a story. It might seem a bit mad that we're going after the Norse gods, but actually there's method in our madness. Thor, why do we pick the gods themselves? Well, if you read books like the Orkney Inga saga, which is a book that was written about the Vikings' exploits on Orkney, Thor visited Orkney. He cut as he was fighting the giant serpent off the islands of Orkney. He took his hammer and he thrust a blow to try and kill the serpent, and he basically cut Orkney right in two. So there's beautiful sheer-faced cliffs that go right along the east coast of Orkney, which apparently Thor created with his mighty hammer when he was trying to kill this big sea snake. And loads of these stories have continued throughout the years through Orkney, and it's now great that we now have the opportunity to just tell that story in a slightly different way. Thor himself and the collection is based on 4 gods. The gods have different histories, and this history is intertwined and argue with each other, and everybody disagrees, and there's lots of different ways you can read the stories. But we've taken our interpretation of the stories, and then we've transformed that into the liquid, into the whisky itself. But ultimately it's this: Valhalla is a great feasting hall for the dead warriors. You must die in battle to be taken to Valhalla. And the first person to meet you, first physical person to meet you, is Thor, and he's the god of thunder. He's the god of lightning, he's the god of war. You've seen all the movies, you've read all the stories, you've seen the cartoons and all that sort of thing. You know who Thor is. What we're going to do is create four of the gods, and we're going to bring out one a year. Thor is the first. And the thing I'd like you to think about is we're going to create the whisky in the character of the god. So it's not about just picking a whisky and going, that's Thor. It's actually creating whisky to highlight the character, or the character flaws, or the great character parts of the god himself. So if you were to think about what is Thor like, Thor is, he's a bit of a beast of a man. He's not the world's cleverest person. He's quite blunt. He's quite straightforward. Does he have character flaws? Absolutely, of course he does. But he's Thor. But he gets away with it. His heart's in the right place. He wants to do his best, and that's what we expect the whisky to taste like. We've taken the inspiration from the ships. When these warriors die, they would mount their bodies onto the ships and set them sail and burn them, and that would speed their journey to Valhalla. And then the god himself is the first thing you see once you come off your boat. But the whisky for Thor is, and this is going to be very difficult for me to try and explain. He's 16 years old, and that's probably the easiest bit to explain. The alcohol content is Thor strength, isn't it? There's nothing gentle about that. That's going to give you a good kick. That's what his hammer's about. If you're the god of thunder and you're this big strong man, I think you're not going to be 40%, are you? You're going to be something more. You look at the whisky, you can see there's just oodles and oodles of alcohol coming right the way through that. I mean, it really gives you a sense of apprehension when you're looking at that, going, I have to be very, very careful how I handle this. And when you smell it, let's just say that Thor is a big, bold, brash character. He is high in strength, quite a powerful beast. He has character flaws, but he makes up for them in other ways. He's not the world's most well-balanced person, but he's dynamic. He's got so much more going for him. But if you get underneath that rough exterior, eventually you reveal the kind of soft gentleman that he is underneath. And then when you finally take a taste of the whisky, that's when you see, the inner side to the whisky. Yes, it is balanced, it is well-rounded, he's well understood, but there are a couple of flavours that just dominate, just become a little bit more forceful than the rest. Really, really catch your breath. And eventually, after a very, very long time, that flavour just begins to subside. You get that smoky aftertaste, which is classic Highland Park. Cheers.